had a dream that one day I may be able to record without zits on my head. However, as it appears, I will not be able to do that, unfortunately. I think that if I was to try to wait for that opportunity and or clearing, it would probably never come. I think I've come to the realization that I basically have, that's the way I look, and it is what it is. And so, you know what I mean? There's no way to get rid of it, but it is what it is. My son said that he hopes he doesn't have my skin, which is funny. I had that exact same situation when I was a kid. I would always tell my friends, I'd be like, I am not going to get my mom's skin. I was like, I'm sure of it, because at that time she would still like have medications that she was getting from a pharmacy that she had to keep in the fridge, and she was putting on her face. And it's funny, here I am in the probably same ages that she was at that time, doing the exact same things. And someday, hopefully, I'll get it figured out. But I would always tell my friends that I was going to get my dad's skin, because from his tales that he told us, he never had serious skin problems. So the only reason I mention that is because again, it'd be nice to be on camera. I mean, it's all these, I guess it's a lot of times filters, right, that you're seeing, but everybody that you see on social media is completely clear face and stuff. And here I am into my 30s, still haven't figured that out. So lucky day. But yeah, like I said, my son, Breck, he thought eventually that he'll get his mom's skin, and she happens to have really clear skin, probably pretty much never had zits, so we will just hope that that's the case. They have clear skin now, but I think when you're 7 years old, that's just how it works out for a really long time. I don't know when mine started breaking out, but I'm sure everybody's done hearing about my woes of acne and things and such. And so, like I said, I just won't worry about that. And this is just what my fucking face looks like. Ooh, can't make it through 5 minutes without cussing already. That's okay. What are they going to do? That's not the biggest deal in the entire world. I was curious. I was driving the other day to pick my son up, actually, and I was getting honked at, and I was like, made me think, like, when do other people pull out? Like, when you're getting ready to go to an intersection where the cross traffic doesn't stop, I mean, do you wait for a gap that you're comfortable with, or do you go when the person behind you is honking? Because, like, I obviously at this time didn't have my son in the car, but if I have my son in the car, I'm waiting until I feel safe. Like, I'm not just going to pull out when you think it's okay. And especially, like, for instance, in this situation, I had to cross 3 lanes of traffic, so some small gap, which no matter what wouldn't have done for me, because I'm not going to be stupid. It's one of those situations where it's like, if any situation in your car were to falter at all, then you would get slammed by 2 lanes of traffic and just get completely demolished. And so, for instance, I just wait. I wait till it's clear. Like, I don't trip out about it. I'm just like, okay, it's clear. And so somebody listening may be like, I'm the guy behind you that honks at you, and I think you're a dipshit, and I think you should move. But I don't know. I just can't fathom that. I just can't fathom pulling out in front of a tiny gap that you may or may not be able to make. And then, not to mention, 85% of the time that I'm driving and I'm driving down the road, people that just pull out, I have to slow down completely. Like, I try to use cruise control as often as I can, and I know nobody cares, but the point here is that I try to use cruise control as often as I can, just because I don't want to speed. I mean, I've had those situations where, dude, one day I got pulled over coming home from school. I wasn't paying attention, and lo and behold, it was actually the day that I got expelled from school, which is a great story. But anyway, I got pulled over on the way home because I wasn't paying attention, and I was just going 35, and I actually thought it was a 35, so I wasn't like even going over the speed limit or anything. And it turns out it was a school zone, so of course I got like a 15 over, which is fines doubled. So of course I lost my license. And I don't remember why I'm telling you that at all, but that's insane. I just completely lost my train of thought. But yeah, it totally happened. I got pulled over, and I totally remember now. So if, for instance, those type of situations where you get pulled over because you're not paying attention, I just try to pay the most attention that I can now and be a completely defensive driver. And most people consider it probably like a grandpa, you know what I mean? Even people that have driven with me have said it's ridiculous, but I don't know. I would prefer to be safe. And like another thing is, like, what is the amount of room that you give somebody when you're pulling up like to a space? Like, for instance, when I'm picking my son up from school, it's a lot of people right outside the school just like lining up, and they don't let you go through the bus route. So you have to actually park somewhere. And so, for instance, the other day, this lady just backed in so close that there's no way I would have even been able to get out. And then, like, another time, most people will pull up all the way up to your bumper. And for instance, if the person behind them pulls up to their bumper, then what? Everybody's waiting for the person in the front? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't just give an amount of room for somebody to pull out. And so, again, my thought is, like, when does the natural public pull out? Do they pull out when they're comfortable? And again, how much room do you give yourself to pull out when you're gonna be in a parking space where you're in a bunch of cars lined up, parallel parked? I prefer to give myself as much room as possible, but dude, people will fucking squeeze it in there, and I just, not for me. I don't know. Again, probably just benefit I have of living in Colorado, of not having the most people around us at a constant amount of time. Somebody in LA would probably be like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, there's traffic everywhere. Like, that's just how it works. But anyway, I try to give myself as much room as possible, and I know that's ridiculous, but I'd just be curious to see what other people thought on that. You know what I mean? Are you pulling out in front of people even if they're going 35 miles an hour, and then you're going to be the guy that, makes them, one, have to slow down, and then you probably turn in 100 yards anyway, so you're going to end up making them slow down again when you really could have just waited for traffic to pass you by and then gone your 100 yards and taken your turn and not been in anybody's way. But that's just my opinion, I don't know. Do you go when you're comfortable, or do you go when they're comfortable? But anyway, I was reading that news story about the treasure hunter. Did you guys see that? I mean, again, obviously I mentioned that stupid story about getting pulled over, but that's nothing compared to the crimes that he had committed. And even when we did get caught, it was never anything cool like that. It was very, very, very minor things. But this guy, so he was a banker in Cleveland, Ohio, and I apologize, but the dumbest stories intrigue my interest. And so this guy was working on a weekend, and so it was like a Friday night, and everybody else had left, and it was, I forget, like I had wrote it down, so I apologize. I'll have to refer back to it. But let me see here. It was 1969. So it was a Friday in 1969, and they had just solved this 52-year-old cold case. So, for instance, they said that after this guy died, they eliminated all the other suspects, and they were sure that it was this gentleman. I still don't know how sure they were, because if you're chasing this case for so many years, I think you'd be wanting to blame it on somebody. So, feel free to check the details, but from what I saw, they identified a dead man, if I understood correctly. But point being, in 1969 on a Friday, he was leaving the office, so he worked at a bank, and it was in Cleveland, Ohio. And after everybody had left, he stuffed $215,000, which they said would be equal to $1.7 million today, into a bag, and just ran off. And he's been living a quiet life all since then, just not attracting attention to himself under a fake name. And I just thought that was really cool. I mean, the authorities are blaming it on some gentleman, I believe, that died, but other than that, I'm certain about the details that have been reported other than that, but I'm fairly certain that they pinned it on a dead gentleman. So, hopefully they're right, and hopefully they're not just trying to finally, have a name to this case that they've been trying to solve for like 52 years. But I thought that was pretty fascinating. And like I said, I think the dumbest stories probably interest me, but I don't know, that's fascinating, because like I said, we got in trouble, but I'm sure everybody did in their teenage years, but never really for anything cool. And that gentleman, really, he got away with it. I mean, for the most part, especially if he died and then wasn't caught with all that money. And somebody's probably saying that that's terrible to glorify that, but I mean, think if you're honest with yourself, you're like, I would love to have gotten away with $215,000 and lived my entire life without ever being caught. And again, at that time, that was equal to $1.7 million. So if he lived frugally, which it sounds like he did, he probably didn't have to work a whole bunch. Let me just slam my hand into the mic. That's a really nice sound, like, add sound effects for myself here. That's fantastic. But thought that was a pretty cool story. You know what else I was noticing? I was looking at like social media, right? And for the longest time, when I first got off of, and I guess I shouldn't say I got off of, and I apologize for clearing my throat there. I know that's a super pleasant noise. I got off of Facebook, as in like kind of stopped using it as much, mostly because I guess it was like the more popular people ended up being like, you know, my 50 and 60-year-old aunt and uncle, and the crowd that they tend to follow and have. And I wasn't as interested in it, and I was really a foodie at the time. I guess I say at the time because now I'm trying to be more healthy, and you know, being a foodie is not quite as much in line with that. And I know there's so many shows and things where people are trying to be like vegan, and I shouldn't say be vegan, but they have like very healthy cuisines that are put together beautifully and still established fantastic. But now trying to cover that. I don't remember the fuck I was going with this story, but yeah, there's that going on. That's pretty cool. Maybe I'll remember. Probably not. But yeah, I guess I was just saying that I switched over to watching. Oh yeah, you know, so Instagram became more attractive because you can follow chefs, and you can follow their cuisines, and you can follow the things that they're creating and their restaurants and things like that. And even if you have the opportunity to travel, then obviously you can go to their restaurants. And it seemed like celebrity chefs don't get as much respect as maybe some of the other ones, which is interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, I went to like multiple Bobby Flay restaurants, and I know nobody gives a fuck, but it wasn't like hard to get in, and I was really surprised about that. Like when we went to New York City, I was thinking like, oh, I waited till it's almost 5, you know, and I haven't made a reservation. There's no way I'm gonna be able to get in. And me and my son were able to go to one of his restaurants in New York City, and I was just like, wow, I didn't think that would be. But again, it doesn't seem like they're as say popular as maybe some of the other chefs and things like that. But you know, one thing I noticed as I moved over to Instagram is like I was first again with like chefs and things like that. I mostly just like followed women, and I know that sounds stupid, but with Facebook, right, you have to like have somebody you both follow each other, right? So you have to get their stuff unless you can mute it and things like that. But other than that, you're gonna have the you know, people in your feed on a constant basis. And so I just came to a decision like I'm not gonna follow all the people from high school and all the people that, you know, I've known from the past. Like it's no reason to fill your feed with that. You should fill the feed with things you want, which at first became women, but this is where my theory became here. Doesn't it seem like they can do a completely different quality? And I'm not sexist, and I'm not trying to say anything bad. This is just an observation, and I can't believe I feel like I'm defending myself before I even talk. That's crazy. But doesn't it seem like they have a completely different standard of quality for content? Like, for instance, if you were just to watch like very attractive women, you know, I'm never going to say a name or anything like that, but like, for instance, there's this one here in my town that she has a great following, and she's very attractive. She's, you know, very attractive woman, easy to say that. And so, you know, other than that, you like look at the content that these people are putting out, and if they weren't in it, it would literally be dog shit. And I guess that's an easy way to put it without saying a whole bunch. But that was just one thing that I noticed, and hopefully I'm not being a total, you know, piece of trash. But my thought there is just like, it seems like the quality level is lower if you're super attractive, because that beauty or whatever it is heightens the quality of the video, and therefore the content itself doesn't have to be as I don't know, maybe entertaining or things like that it should be. And I'm not trying to be an asshole, but that's just one thing that I thought was interesting. It seems like if you were to, like I said, like, you know, this local gal, which I don't think would have any followers, and especially the people that are particularly following, like, you know, your stories or your Instagram, and I know those can be very lucrative, but it just doesn't seem like you have to have as good of things. And I'm not being jealous or anything like that. I guess I thought that was interesting. So good for them. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying there's not people that don't have. I feel like that for some reason I have the need to defend myself, which is crazy. But there are plenty of people putting out extremely high quality things. Again, it just seemed like when I first moved over to Instagram and I was just following a bunch of women and food chefs and restaurants and things like that, the things that they posted weren't necessarily like the greatest thoughtful things. Like, one, both the things that were being said, two, the things that were being put together. It was more just like, they're really attractive and that's what you're following. And somebody is probably like, fucking duh, dude. That's it. That's all you need. That's why. But I don't know. I guess I have some thought that there's like but there can be a standard for both people. It is what it is. But that's wouldn't people say that would be like sexist in some senses then, right? I'm not pleading sexism. That's so silly. I don't know. Again, it was just a thought. I almost probably should have like done the thing where you keep the thought in your head and you don't tell anybody about it. But here I am, just like having it, here, sorting it out. But good times there, eh? That was one thing that I noticed. Another thing I noticed was that concert. I mean, I'm sure it's old news by now, but there was like that, what do they call, brass against? And some guy, she apparently informed him, but some guy came on stage like with a can on his head, and she squatted over him and just let loose. And I just wonder what kind of I guess what it takes to have the balls to do that. I certainly don't see myself doing that here in the future, but holy moly, right? Like, you think that's like one of those like Kanye type things where it's like you want the attention, you want everybody to like be attracted to you and look at your name because now you've mentioned something completely insane or done something completely insane in her case, but it could just be that, I don't know, I guess she was lost in the moment, but wouldn't you say, I mean, again, this is all just speculation, but I mean, you'd have to be on like drugs or something, and I don't know much about the band. They may be pretty hip to that scene, but I just would think you'd have to be with a crowd full of people in front of you, and the statement in the beginning that she's going to relieve herself, and then again preparing the gentleman in order to get the can and get him on stage. That's so much thought going into that. So clearly it's like you haven't had that point where your brain goes, hey, do you think maybe this isn't something we should do? Do you think maybe as a business that we're trying to run and move forward with, this could possibly be a bad idea? And so that's why I say possibly drugs, because it's like it kind of helps turn off some of those things. And I don't mean to be, act like I know what I'm talking about. I guess I would consider myself, California sober, as if you're Demi Lovato. But that's the easiest way to put it, without saying too much, which I can say too much. I don't mind. I just didn't know if that was relevant. It's really not. Probably would have been more relevant to elaborate on the expulsion story, but again, I don't think anybody cares. It's just one of those things. Also, one thing that I really was bummed out about was like, what's that? I don't know. There's a comedian that has like a knife story, and so I was like, that, you know what I mean? If I tell my story, unless I was to get like validation from people that I went to school with, which I don't want, and I don't want to share the story. But that was the thought there, is like, it would sound a lot like him. I remember when he was sharing a story, and I was like, oh shoot, just basically I had a knife at my school, and it was 11th grade, and we actually had this teacher that she like would, she wasn't like super hardcore, so like make you miss class or mark you tardy or whatever like that, but she was actually the dance instructor as well. So she would have you dance at the front of class, and I was really stupid, and it's odd that I actually had a friend just a few days before that he was like, hey man, you should really stop carrying that blade in your pocket. That's really stupid. And then like, after I heard that, I remember trying to justify it with my mom one night. She needed to open this plastic thing that she got from the store. They're always encased, and I was like, well, this is why I carry a knife. It's a tool, being a fucking moron teenager. And I just days later was late to this gal's class, and she had me dance at the front, and some kid saw the knife in my pocket. It must have been like a perfect outline or whatever it was, but he was like, Ethan, why do you have a 6-inch blade in your pocket? And obviously it wasn't a 6-inch blade, but when somebody says that, they have to pull you aside. And so then it's like halfway through class, and they pull me out of class, and they're talking to me, and they're like, well, obviously, you have to be expelled. And oddly enough, that was the day that the cool thing is the class that they pulled me out of later in the day was like student council. So for instance, we were just like setting up for a dance. So the bummer part I remember is, of course, I wanted to go to that dance that night, which is the stupidest thing in the world. But when you're a high schooler, you're like, I don't know, excited about those type of things. And so for instance, the class they pulled me out of it later ended up being student council, and we were setting up for the dance. So one, I was bummed I didn't get to go to the dance, but then two, I'm on my way home and not paying attention to the school zones, and I lost my license. So it was just like it was like the worst day. But point being, I just had a knife, and I guess there's this rule, and I shouldn't say I guess, because my friend that warned me days before probably knew this, but there's this rule that you can't have a knife of over a certain amount of inches when you're not hunting or fishing. And obviously, if I'm just going to school with a knife in my pocket, I'm not hunting or fishing. But I was in, for instance, in expulsion school with kids that they actually like pulled their knives out, like had it open and like opened it up towards people, and like even like we're doing stupid stuff with it. And I didn't even, that wasn't even the same situation. Like, for instance, I just pulled it, or excuse me, I did not pull it out. It was sitting in my pocket, and the outline in my pocket caused the kid to exclaim about it. But I don't know. I guess I just thought I would elaborate on that. That gentleman that got away with that $215,000, he had a way better story. And then, of course, the fact that you don't get caught. You know what I mean? Like, my story was terrible. It was like that day changed the course of my life forever. And I'm not here to complain or you know, breed my sorrows, or I don't even think that's a saying. But I guess bleed my sorrows. Maybe that's a thing, you know, because like they're coming out of you, right? I'm trying here. I tried to make some blabbering of words sound good as the trash truck comes by. Those always make a really pleasant noise, don't they? You're like, you know, if you're really into ASMR, a trash truck cruising by is probably does it for you, huh? No, I'm just kidding. But I just thought that was, I guess, interesting thing that I probably should have elaborated on. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess if you're just gonna breeze over something stupid that you say, but I don't even remember why I brought it up again. I thought it was maybe because that gentleman, the authorities pinned the 52-year-old cold case on, was doing crime, and you know, I tried to do crime, but it wasn't that cool. You know, that's not a good story at all. Like, I just had a pocket knife. You know, that's terrible. And then, of course, I said really dumb things, right, to like my teachers and stuff. And so like I, you know, like was really cocky and arrogant and a moron. And I didn't even know what arrogant meant for years. And people probably would still call me arrogant, but I didn't know what it meant for a really long time. And I would, you know, I for instance told them, I was like, I'm going to walk. I was like, I will walk. And I did not. The year later when I came back, like, I did not. So unfortunately, I passed. I got like the diploma, or I think so. I never went and picked it up. But I think I got one, so I tell people that. I was telling people that on jobs. So here we are. That's that story. Not necessarily anything that I needed to share, but I guess again, it seems like as people do and get caught for crime, there are those certain crimes that catch your eye. There was the other one? Oh yeah, just the gal at the concert. But that's crazy. I mean, again, it just seems like it has to be orchestrated. If you're not at some point knowing like this is a bad idea, then you would think it's orchestrated. Or maybe that's just my what would you call it, skepticism, that for instance she's got you know, some benefit of all that attention, and of course that's going to draw a lot, if not everybody's attention. So I don't know, that's one thing. But yeah, didn't mean to digress about myself, or I guess I did. Who cares, right? What's the worst thing that could happen? But oh yeah, I mean, that wasn't the only stuff. I mean, nobody cares again, but that wasn't the only stuff that happened. Like we ended up, I mean, getting in some trouble here and there. Like I remember I would always tell people that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But nowadays it's like one of those things where you have to be like, and especially now that I have a son, it's like you have to know that I put myself in those places at those times. So I don't know that anybody else is responsible for my actions aside from me. So that's the you know, the caveat. Is it a caveat? I've heard that word used. I don't know if I've ever used it, so hopefully I used it correctly. But that's the kicker there. I didn't know. I lost track what the hell I was talking about again. But it sounded like, yeah, just getting in trouble. We would we had this guy. I remember he had just broken up with his girlfriend, and then of course, like, you know, we were younger, we were teenagers, and so like we would go to the club just on the weekends. You know, it wasn't anything cool, just like in our local town, and we saw his ex-girlfriend there with a guy. And so, of course, that, you know how that goes, especially if you just broke up. It's like, oh, that's in really, I mean, I guess my personal opinion would be to say that that's in really bad taste. And, of course, you don't want to be the person that's hours out of a relationship, and then at a, I guess you could say the same thing for him, that he's at the club, and who knows? I'm sure I'm not going to speak for him, but he's at the club, and just hours after they've broken up, obviously she decided to go too. Who knows if she knew he was going? But obviously when he saw that, that was not good. So like we had later, I think, so we left and everything, and then we're later at another house, and I remember he just lined up, and again, I try not to drink anymore just because it kills me. I'm just like dead the next day. So many, I'm literally wanting to like have regurgitation just thinking about it, but it just kills me the next day. I can't stand the hangover. I can't stand the headache. I can't stand pretty much any part about it. And I don't remember why I'm saying this. I guess just because I was mentioning that we were drinking. Oh yeah. So he like signs up, right? He just has, and I want to say like, it was, to be conservative, it was 6, but probably more like 9 shots, which, I mean, he was I want to say big, but he was extremely small. He was like 5'9", but he was like a thick kid. And, he lined up, again, easily 6, but probably more like 9 shots of vodka, and I don't recommend anybody do that, and it was probably the thing that set him in the wrong direction, but he pounded all of them, and then proceeded to, and again, we all got in trouble for this, so this is not anything people know, and nobody cares probably. But I was just thinking about that guy that got in trouble stealing the $215,000 in 1969 in Cleveland, and he then found out that the gentleman that we saw at the club was at his house, and so he decided to go to that guy's house. And of course the guy didn't answer his door, because when somebody knocks on your door at night and you either look out or you know that he's coming, you're like not gonna fucking answer. And so Brent went around the back, and he went into his garage, and then so we followed him. Ultimately, and again, I always say, like, wrong place at the wrong time. Our goal was to get Brent back out. We were like, dude, don't do that, come back here, you know what I mean? But we were all in there at that point. And then the homeowner, of course, came out with a baseball bat, and so he was chasing Brent still went after him. I don't know if I should be using names or not, but he still went after him. Took a couple of hits from the baseball bat. The kid lost the baseball bat. Another kid came out of the hallway, and then one of our kids in our group jumped him. And I don't mean jumped him, but like hit him in the stomach, and they both went down to the ground, like with his shoulder. So I guess that'd be like tackled would be the more appropriate word. He wrapped him up. But yeah, and then I don't remember much other than that. I mean, I certainly wrote a statement and everything, and then my friend got to read them, which is a super interesting thing, right? I mean, for the longest time, and I've thought about trying to tell my son this, and I don't know that it'll ever do. I think you almost have to be burned, and in some senses or not. But like my friend got to read all of our statements, right, about like what happened, and so many people, of course, wanted to cover their ass and not say anything. And I just like said what happened. I just like said the things that occurred, and it didn't incriminate anybody, because in truth be told, the problem was when Brent went around back. He went through the door, and so that was the going into a home. And when we went in, you're going through a door that somebody doesn't want you to come in, and so it's a whole thing. But anyway, we ended up getting. I would say it worked out in the sense that we were on probation for years, and I learned I never wanted to be in trouble. I hated being in trouble. It was just the worst, and I'm sure anybody feels that way, but. Some people are, and I'm not, like are repeat offenders for the longest period of time, but gosh, I don't know why nobody cares, but I'm just kind of mentioning that anyway. But that was, one of those fascinating things that, you just as a teenager, again, I always said I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but it once you go into some places at certain times, it can be pretty devastating, but that's okay. That's not a big deal. What else? I had this situation with mushrooms, but I probably shouldn't tell anybody about, and I don't mean good mushrooms, like, what would they say, wild mushrooms, magic mushrooms. I just mean like normal baby Bella mushrooms. And I asked my mom about it, and she doesn't think, I don't know. She doesn't think that it's a normal thing. So I'm pretty sure that it's just my body, for instance. But when I searched it in Google, other people had looked for it. So it's not like I'm the only person. But for instance, I ate a bunch of mushrooms. Like I like to like put them on a tray, and I shouldn't say I like to because I did it for the first time and it was the only time I'd ever done it. But one thing I do like to do, I guess I should say that maybe that's where that came from, is I like to try to use sheet trays more often than like any other dish because I'm super lazy, and I don't mean to be a piece of shit, but I guess that's just how life is. Sometimes I get a little lazy. Pardon me. And so the easiest way to clean a dish sometimes is like when you take one of those sheet trays and then you just line tinfoil on the top of it, then I don't even have to worry about cleanup. Like I still clean the dish as in like hit it with some soap and water and then dry it off. But the nice thing is you're not scrubbing grease off or any of that food or any of that nasty stuff. And so I had taken these mushrooms. They were like baby bellas. And you know what I'd also be interested to see is like what the standard is on cleaning mushrooms, right? Because you know they're from the ground, so it's like the expectation is they obviously have dirt on them, and I think the majority of people just don't clean them. I think most people don't give anything and about the fact, because like I've had them, for instance, and if you don't clean them they're just a little grittier, and obviously I'm gonna guess that's the dirt that you're eating when you have the mushrooms. But if you clean them, it completely changes the look of them, like especially if you have those portobello mushrooms, right? Because like if you scrub the outside even with the lightest bristles, it's going to take away the brown, right? So then you just have like the white looking mushroom. And then I normally take out the stem, but I don't know what the normal thing is to do, but I guess you could put them in a stew or use them later. But I typically don't use the stems. I just take them out and get rid of them, which I know is the most wasteful thing in the world. And then if I was ever to complain about food, people would be like, those mushroom stems, dude, what are you doing with those mushroom stems? But anyway, I don't know what the standard is on that. Maybe everybody throws them away, but my thought was I take off all these mushroom stems and I put them on the tray. But before I did that, I took like a brick. It's not in the form of a brick. I could probably make a brick if I wanted a brick, but it's like bacon fat. And I have this like bacon fat in the freezer that's just from many, many times of like collecting the drippings when it's done and I've cooked it. And I just kind of like draw, like either with chalk or like, just drawing in the sense with the grease. I normally put a glove on before I do it, like a disposable glove, and then they draw all over the aluminum foil. And then I put the baby bellas on there and I seasoned them. I just put like salt, garlic powder, onion powder, Spanish paprika, ground mustard, just a few things to try to like add some flavor. And then I let them cook for like 6 minutes at 400, and then I turned them over and I seasoned them again before I put them back in. But then, and this is why I say I don't know if I should have talked about this, and I don't know if I said that, but I'm thinking that right now, so that's the reason why I mentioned it. I later have always, every time I eat mushrooms, no matter what it is, the reaction of really needing to go to the bathroom a lot. And like, for instance, I think last Friday I went like 4 times in the morning, like, which is a lot, it really, I mean, I've had some people that either they don't want to admit it or maybe they're just weird that I'm like talking about that. But I've had people that are like, no, dude, it doesn't do anything. But I need a minute, you know what I mean? Like I need to regain my energy and like collect after that. And there's people that are like, no, I'm good, dude. I'm on with my day after that. But point being, after like 4 times, I had to look it up on Google, right? And like I said, it came right up on Google. It was like, do what happens when you eat a lot of mushrooms is mushroom poisoning. And I was like, that can't be. I mean, that's what it said. I'm not saying that my Google search was right or that my symptoms are 100% matching that, but the idea was if you have an adverse reaction when you eat mushrooms, you've gotten mushroom poisoning. But I can't imagine that every time I've ever eaten mushrooms that they would have possibly been poisoned. And again, I called my mom and I asked her, and I was like, do you get sick, right? Like you have to go to the bathroom way more than you normally should after you eat mushrooms, right? And she was like, no, not at all. I just had a soup that had a lot of mushrooms in it. And she was like, I didn't go to the bathroom adversely or abnormally at all. I was like, all right. So it's just me. So I'm trying to not eat. Like I have the leftovers still, the leftover ones that I didn't eat, because of course I couldn't eat the gigantic bin of portobellos. Like I cooked the whole thing, and I ate as many as I could. But and maybe that's why maybe I ate too many. Maybe you just have like a limit you're supposed to eat. You're supposed to eat like one portobello mushroom, but I ate a lot, so that could be it. But anyway, the most easiest thing to do. Oh, what was that? Oh, what? I guess we cut. I guess we cut. I don't know why. I didn't hit the button and nothing happened, but apparently something happens after however long. That's insane. I don't even know how long that was. So this one says they're not at different times. They're at different times, so it doesn't matter. But not by choice. But apparently we cut. So I'll probably be like in the middle of a sentence, and then you know what I mean, like zoom over for however long it took to transition between that. But for some reason those changed over, and I don't remember what I was just talking about mushrooms, and nobody cares. But the thing is yeah, I guess I was just wondering what people's reaction is. Is that normal? Apparently it's not. But again, when I typed it in, it was like, yeah, that's just mushroom poisoning. But it can't be that every mushroom that I've ever had was like poison. You know, I get that they're fungus, but I don't know. That just seems like seems abnormal. And maybe it's because I cleaned them. Maybe it's because I wiped all the outsides off. Maybe it's because you need the dirt with them. Who knows? You know what I mean? I've eaten them both ways, and I've had the same reaction both times. But yeah, I almost feel like I should check that, because I don't know why. Basically, I heard a click, which is the same click that you hear when the camera turns on, and I didn't do anything because I'm sitting here, and now it's on a new count. So I'm like, obviously the video started over, but you know what I mean? At what point did it cut out? That's silly. It's not a big deal. I'm just gonna try to not think about it. Yeah, nobody cares, but it's all good. Yeah, man, we did just the stupidest stuff when we were kids. I remember it's like you're just like you're just like so in need of a place, because of course your parents don't want any of your bullshit that you're trying to pull, and so they're like, nobody's into it. Like I remember one time we were at this kid's house, and I don't know if it matters. They called him. It doesn't matter what they called him, but we were at this kid's house, and he had these window wells, right? Because I remember, like, when you talk to him, like, when you know people are like, oh yeah, dude, you can smoke in my house, dude, you can drink in my house, like, yeah, dude, it's totally cool. And then like you get there and they're like, no, don't say anything to my mom, and don't let her see anything, you know. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. So, but we were down in his basement, and I don't know why I was thinking about this. I guess just because we did stupid stuff. But we would go out into his window well, and it was just the most. What is that? It just made me feel like shit, I guess is the easiest way to put it. But you know what I mean? He'd be like, dude, you can go smoke outside. And he just had one of those like tiny egress windows, like where, for instance, you know, your window, it's not even like the one with the nice stairs or anything that goes out, but it's just got like the, you know, C shape that comes out the side of the house, or like half circle that comes out the side of the house and goes down like 5 feet. And like, you know, typically they have like a little ladder in them and a cage. So for instance, they got that like cover on the top, so like nothing comes into it, and they have like you know, like the emergency hatch if you need to get out for a fire or anything like that. But other than that, he's like, yeah, dude, you can go outside and smoke, and you're like in there. And I don't smoke anymore. I just, you know, obviously as a kid you do a lot of stupid things, and so I, for instance, as a teenager, I did smoke cigarettes. And it's not really my business to share. My son's mom still smokes cigarettes, and my mom still smokes cigarettes, and I sent her like this thing that I had seen the other day, and I'm sure people that smoke do not want to see that. And I remember when I first quit, I was really stupid. Like one of the first times you know, it was like a week after I had put them down, and I was like, you know, telling everybody like, dude, what's wrong with you? I can't believe you still smoke. And you know, it's like 7 days. I started smoking again, like not too much later, and you know, of course, smoked again for years after that, and then finally, like, you know, it's weird. I even told my mom, and I don't know where I'm going with this or where I was going with the other thing, but obviously this is a tangent. But I had told her, because she's trying to quit. Oh, that's what I was saying. I was saying that they're smoking. I tried to like tell well I oh that's what I was saying. Yeah, I shared with them that this thing that I heard that said basically even if you quit by like a later age, like even like age 54, that some of the things that you've done to your body, the negative things that you've done to your body, can actually be reversed. So for instance, even into a later age, if you've say made the mistake of smoking for many years, your body actually can still heal itself. And so I just thought that was like a positive thing. Like, again, I sent it to her. It's really weird, and I guess it doesn't matter, but she actually lives with my son's mom actually lives with my mom. And so I guess I was hoping maybe she'd share it with them. But again, people probably don't want to hear that when they smoke, and I don't normally tell anybody anything, but it was my mom, and it's like, really, don't you want, like, my son says all the time, he's like, I hope my mom quits smoking. And I'm like, I get it, I feel the exact same way. So I guess that's the thing. It's like one of those things where you don't want to hear it, but I guess it's just because I care about her, right? I mean, I just want her to be safe, and I know that if she wasn't to do it, that it'd be better off. So I sent that to her, but I was never good. Like for instance, when I finally quit, I quit in 2018. So what, it's been like 3 years. I actually quit right in the beginning of November. So that's funny. It was November 8th. So it's been just over 3 years since I've had a cigarette or even had a drag of a cigarette, which is pretty cool. I didn't realize that. I guess it's been over 3 years. After a while, you just forget. Like, I still think about them. Like, I just recently in my car, I had a pack of cigarettes, a full pack that I just never opened, that I've had all this time. And this is not an ad for Marlboro, but I couldn't. My mom is taking some medicine. She's taking something that she's trying to, like, apparently you're supposed to take it and it allows you to quit both smoking and drinking, which, I mean, I don't know. I've heard those things that those people take, and sometimes they get like sick, right? Like, it's like if you take it, and I don't know what kind of thing it is, but like if you take the alcohol, or if you have alcohol, I mean, or like smoke or something like that, after that you can get actually sick because of whatever the medicine is. So I don't know what medicine it is that she's taking, but she's trying to do one where she quits. And I was like, man, I was only ever able to like replace it with things, and I don't recommend that for anybody, but it seemed like any time I had an addiction, and I've unfortunately had too many, luckily I've eliminated a lot of them now. I can't do like caffeine and stuff. Sometimes it's just too much. You know what I mean? It's like it's like trying to eat healthy, right? Like, and I respect so many of these people, but like, you talk about the people that are like, grapes are too much, right? Like carrots are too much because they have too much sugar in them. And I'm just like, fucking kill me, dude. I can't do it. Like, I try so hard to eat well and try to do the right thing. But it's like, if we're getting to a point where fruits and vegetables are not allowed, I have to rule them out because I'm going to spike my what is it, my glucose levels. It's just like, it's too much, right? I mean, like, I want to try to be healthy, but that's insane. That, like, now grapes and carrots are bad. Now, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, get the fuck. I'm trying, fruits and vegetables. So anyway, point being, no idea what my point was, actually, I should say. My mom would, take this medicine, and I, for instance, just tried to like replace all my addictions with other things. I know it's so terrible. So for instance, like, I hate those vape things, and they're disgusting. And I think that was actually the benefit of the whole deal. But for instance, that in November 8th, 2018, when I ended up finally quitting smoking, I started vaping, right? And so I was doing that, and it literally felt like a straw. Like, I'm taking a straw and just sucking that, what do they call it? E-juice. I'm sucking the e-juice just right onto my tongue. So I just had like a coating on my tongue of this e-juice, just like anytime I'd smoked it. And people would say that that's not supposed to happen. I replaced it like that cartridge things. Like, one, I would replace the little, I have a million of them still because I bought packs of them, of course, at the time, and I stopped using it. But I would replace the heaters in it. I replaced the whole thing. I even bought one that was all stupid in gold because it was supposed to be like higher quality. And the nice thing is that every time, no matter what I did and how many changes I made, that e-juice still came up through the thing, and it was just disgusting. And so I found a way to this habit that I had now replaced smoking with just be so, and most people are, I am now, I guess I don't know. I understand why people smoke because I really enjoyed it when I did it. And apparently nicotine has got some amazing, which you can get nicotine without cigarettes, but it's got some amazing benefits. So I don't know. I guess there's the idea that it can be beneficial, but God, I have no idea where I was going with that. Yeah. So oh, it was just so disgusting. It was just like, I was getting the nicotine replacement, but the fact that it was just the most disgusting thing that I'd ever done, I just stopped doing it. And so then I was able to quit because like I'd replaced it. But I would say time and time again, I've done that with almost anything. And so that was like my advice. But anyway, point being, I don't know that she was actually, that's funny. I actually don't know that she was taking that medication because she just started taking it. I don't know if she was taking that before I sent it to her. You know what I mean? She may have already like gone to the doctor. She may have already talked to her doctor and like because it was like some prescription thing. So I guess that's pretty cool that either one, maybe we had some similar thinking in the sense that like when I sent it over to her, she was also asking her doctor about it. Otherwise, maybe even the fact that I sent it over to her is what made her think to try to do this. And I mean, I didn't even realize that until right now. That could be really, really cool. I didn't, because it's been like time since then, you know what I mean? And then she's doing this medicine or whatever, but time that she talked to me about that situation. But that's crazy. I didn't think about that. But yeah, I guess as I babbled on about, a couple things in the news and a couple, I guess a lot of things in my past that I keep thinking about is nobody cares. But I don't know. Again, like I said, I think there is no point. But the one things that I could think back on is like, had that not happened, I probably would have just kept getting in trouble. Like, it's funny right now, I'm like the biggest old man in the world. Like you'd be, anybody would be like, I'm the most pathetic person ever because like I go to sleep so early, cause I like try to wake up really early and stuff. But I like go to bed so early, and it's funny cause I think sometimes like that those times when we got in trouble, when you're a juvenile and you get in trouble, they do these weird things where they give you like a 6 p.m. curfew, for instance. But like now the idea of being out after 6 p.m., I'm so lame. Like, I'm like, dude, I don't want to be anywhere after that. I want to be at home and comfortable and, just hanging out with my son. And we got this habit where like we always to kind of wind down when we turn all the lights out and everything. And we like turn the, shades out and basically like, I know I can't just like hit the clock and be like, all right, buddy, time to go to bed. Like time, turn everything off, time to, shut down. Like, so I always we have this like where 2 hours before we go to bed, we have just like wind down time. And so for instance, he'll even ask me now, like, what movie are we going to watch? And, it's kind of cool because he looks forward to it. And I guess it's nice to have that little like routine with him. But my thought is like they kind of set some of those things for you, which at the time you're like, God, I hate being, what is it, like held back and stuff. And it's like, oh, and this is, my mom did amazing. And, my parents did everybody of course is like, my parents did the best they could. And I would never look down upon them or say anything negative. Cause I, as a parent, have realized how hard they worked and how hard it really is. I don't remember why I'm saying that, but it just, yeah, I guess point saying it's, where you can like judge when you're a kid or have some expectation. I guess once you become a parent, you can realize that, you know, your parents sacrificed a lot. But the idea was just like, I can't, I can't imagine letting my kid just roam the streets like I did as a younger kid. You know what I mean? Now, like, I'm like thinking like I'm the worst helicopter parent. Like I'm on him, like all the time. I never let him out. You know what I mean? But for them, when I was a child, to impose those restrictions, it actually established some, what is it? Traditions or habits or things that I think about now, and I'm like, wow, that's funny. It's like things I hated the idea of then, and now it's like, it's just like, of course, like, yeah, we're gonna be at home, relaxing, at night, you know what I mean? And that was just one of the many rules that they have to try to keep you out of trouble. I mean, of course, you're, you know what I mean, taking urinalysis tests and breathalyzer tests and all that kind of fun stuff. But I guess that's what you get for, doing, I told you the story, but following him in there. And, yeah, you just realize that, it's funny because that wasn't the only time that like that type of thing happened, and I hope that that's when I realized it. But it's like you realize that trying to help people, it can sometimes fuck you over, which it's kind of stupid to say, but I guess you can get yourself into a negative situation, and you can get yourself into a situation that can really be detrimental to your future and really affect you, and not even, I mean, I had no skin in the game. For instance, in that particular situation, I had nothing to get. But like, I think about this situation also that I don't know if I mentioned it, but I live in Colorado. So, for instance, growing up, of course, my parents were nice enough to take us skiing a lot. And who knows if they were getting because like right now, dude, I've never taken my skid skiing. I mean, get the fuck out of here, dude. It's so much, and like I mean, I have skis still. I don't even know if I'd be able to use them. And rich parents are probably like, you piece of shit, but. I just think it's a lot to go to the resorts and to enjoy the ski hill during the winter. And I know there was like 1 year that I bought a pass, and that's pretty much the way to go. If you know you're gonna go, you just buy a pass. They're like $500-$600, and then it's like, you know what I mean. You go a few times, and it pays for it, and then you're good. You can go all winter, and you're good. If you just try to do like the day deal, you know what I mean. You're really not getting. And I just may be a cheapskate, but I'm thinking like you're not getting the best deal, right? It's like you pay what, $100 a ticket, so you know what I mean, a day for like the two of us would be $100. But I don't want to. I was just thinking, yeah. So my parents would take us up a lot, and we were super nice to be able to do that. And why the fuck am I sharing that? Like, why did that come up? I can't remember why. Oh, I was thinking because my friend, again, I followed him. Well, like one time I was skiing and we were kids, and my brother, he went off the side. Like they have these ropes, right? Where like they literally say, like if you're looking on the map, it says like national forest area, or don't go here. It'll be like orange with like crosses on it that's like do not go over here. But my brother, oh my gosh, if I can remember the rest of this story, it actually in some ways comes fucking full circle to that other story I shared earlier, which everybody says every circle is full. If it's not, it's something else. So that's a dumb thing to say, and they're right. But the idea was my brother, so we're skiing, and he goes off that area where they have the ropes, and where, again, if you're looking on the map, it says that it's out of the zone, but he goes that way, and it's at least, it's not completely vertical, but it's at least 12 to 20 feet. I'd say 12 conservatively, probably more like 20 feet down, almost completely vertical. And then like some of it is like a little bit of a hill that maybe you can get up, but it's a huge drop off basically. And so it's like either to get back on the trail, you're going to need to go down and around and back up. But we were kids and stupid or something like that. So for instance, my brother keeps trying to climb this vertical snow like cliff, right? And he's losing his mind. I mean, he's like crying and screaming and throwing a tantrum like you would expect. Like my 7-year-old, I would expect him to do that, or not even like years ago, I would expect my son to do that. Nowadays, I'd be like, you know what I mean? You're better than that. You're a big boy, which is so dumb to say, but because there's some things that have happened to me that I'm embarrassed to say, but I've not acted the way that I should, or that like when I'm meditating, I'm like, I want to, or, whatever it is. And they say it doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're going to be, perfect just because you're trying to help your mind and be present and things like that. But anyway, my brother had gone off that and he was trying to get back up. And so for some reason, I thought if I was able to go down there, I would be able to get him back up. If I go down there, somehow be with him, and now I'm going to get him back up that, which is obviously so stupid. I was in this exact same situation. My skis are off, climbing, and then of course you don't want to go back down or anything like that, right? So you have to have your skis in your hand, and if you have poles, which we did, you have poles in your hand too. So either you have both of them in one hand and you're trying to put your boots into the snow and like climb up this side thing. Otherwise you're just basically going to leave your skis down there in the snow, and then you'd have to come back down or something. Anyway, so point being, We're just trying to climb this. It's a total mess. My dad came along. Fortunately, it's kind of a weird situation actually, because it was my stepbrother, which was like, my stepfather's kid, and it was my real dad that was there. But my dad came up actually and cut those ropes. So for instance, those ropes that I said that they used to show that you shouldn't go off course and you shouldn't fucking be here, my dad used a knife and he fucking cut the ropes, and he sent ropes down to us and pulled us back up. So he was able to get us back up out of there. We were kids, so, and he was like a construction worker. So the only reason I say that is because as I say it, it sounds like, yeah, this man just pulled you guys up. But it's like, no, I could probably fucking do that with my kid right now. And so, yeah, he gave us ropes. We did the climbing that we could, but then he's really pulling the majority of your weight. So that way when you're climbing a snowbank, the snow is not just giving out and falling out from beneath you. But what's funny is I say it comes around in a circle, because like I saw my dad in that situation, and he wasn't like around forever, so it had to be around like not after 9 years old or whatever. So I would have been at least probably 9 or 10. And I saw my dad use that knife that he just happened to have on him to cut those ropes on the side of the ski slope and get us back up, and get us back on the thing. But my thought in saying that is like, it's like there's another situation where I tried to follow somebody, and as an adult I think, and it's like there was nothing I was gonna fucking do by going down there. That didn't help him at all. You know what I mean? I needed to get him back up, either that or if both of us were gonna go out and around. But I don't know, we didn't think about it logically. So I guess they say hindsight's 20/20 or whatever. But point being, it seems like so many times in my life I would put myself in a situation so-called to help somebody or to be there to assist somebody, and then what would really happen is like I would just get myself in a shitty situation, or I'd get myself messed up. But I don't know, I guess I just say that, and I'm not trying to fall into victimhood or anything like that, because what I was saying earlier is I feel like I learned so much from that, and I feel so blessed to have had that happen. And I'm not being stupid. I guess it's just the fact that, like I said, it did establish some good habits and some things that stuck, and it offered me some guidance for the future that maybe I wouldn't have had, where again, that's where I was saying, I can't imagine not being there for my son. But it's different times, the generation's completely different. We were just allowed to do completely different things, and I'm not here to babble on about those, I guess, too much more today. But as I come to you in your wherever, your phone, your tablet, your computer, I hope that you'll join me again next time, and I hope to chat with you again. But it was a pleasure. Thanks. Bye, guys.